Welcome to the Wire to Wire podcast. As always, it's me, your host Yusuf. Now, without further ado, let's just get right to it. So it's recently been reported that the United States Department of Justice will be investigating the NBA for anti-competitive practices towards Ice Cube's basketball league, the Big Three. So the Big Three was launched by Ice Cube in January of 2017, and their season kicked off that summer. Now, in theory and in practice, it was a great opportunity for former players that still had a competitive itch to play at a high level in front of fans, get paid, and have a far less grueling summer since they're only playing once a week as opposed to every other day. So one of the unique features of this league is that it's played in a half-court setting and it is only 3-on-3. And shout out to Ice Cube for putting this together. It's a good concept and it works very well. It's competitive, they have a good business model, and it's relatively innovative with the utilization of former NBA players. However, since this league started, many immediately noticed that the NBA has been extremely silent and distant of this league, and they've never really acknowledged it. So Ice Cube, the founder of it, has called them out on numerous occasions of never supporting the league and actually doing things behind the scenes to work against them. So, while it's easy to dismiss what he's saying, after all, the NBA is a huge multinational company that operates globally. Why would they even care about the Big Three to have to mess with their business? But here's the thing. I do believe that there is merit to what is being said, right? There is no reason for Ice Cube to be making this up. He doesn't strike me as the kind of person that would say things to clout chase or start drama out of nowhere. And since the league's inception, it really doesn't make any sense as to why they wouldn't even acknowledge the Big Three. So FIBA has been doing 3-on-3 tournaments since August of 2012 when it debuted in Athens, Greece. And the NBA obviously has a close relationship with them, especially since they're the only entity that oversees international competition, right? Such as the Basketball World Cup, the Olympics qualifying tournament, and even the Olympics itself. So they're the only authority in basketball that is recognized by the International Olympic Committee, right? So in other words, FIBA is a really big deal. So for the Big Three to introduce a league that they believe competes with theirs, it can be disruptive to their whole business model, right? So the NBA provides the talent to FIBA, right? And then the talent will compete in the international games, and that only gives competitive value to FIBA, and it also gives them credibility as well. So they currently have a system and a structure in place that works. So the Big Three poses as a threat to them in a sense because sometimes in business, there can be a lot of greed, right? And they might look at it as they're cutting into some of their action, even though they're really not. And that's just one angle of this. So remember, like I mentioned earlier, the Big Three operates during the summer and they play once a week. But during the summertime, that is when the WNBA takes center stage. So we know that the WNBA has been struggling with viewership, attendance, and even achieving profitability since their inception. But the NBA is all in and fully invested in the WNBA. So it could be that the Big Three poses as competition because, of course, everyone would rather watch former NBA players play a competitive level of basketball rather than watch the NBA. And this is something that we all know. But it's only played once a week. So it shouldn't even have that much of an effect on the WNBA. But when there's money involved, anything that poses as a particular threat will be treated as such, no matter how big or how small that perceived threat may be. So while the big three has a great business model, it is disruptive, or it is at least perceived as being disruptive. And we know how established companies in a particular market or industry will respond to disruptive businesses. Now, do you guys remember how taxis responded to Uber? So it could be we have a similar situation here that's going on. So the specific practices that the Department of Justice is investigating is antitrust violations. So some of these accusations, and I want to make that clear, these are just accusations. Nothing's been proven yet. These accusations include the NBA using its status to prevent sponsors and potential partners from doing business with the big three, right? Deterring television networks from broadcasting the big three's games. And additionally, NBA owners have been discouraged from investing in the league while they own an NBA franchise. Allegedly. All of this is alleged. And it's also being reported that current NBA players have expressed a desire to play in the league, but arbitrary rules are put in place to stop them from playing. So there's quite a bit to unpack here. And again, all of these are allegations. We don't know for sure whether or not they're true. And that is why there is an investigation taking place. But I do believe, though, that Ice Cube and the Big Three, their case does have some merit. So this past summer, we've seen Ice Cube on social media and even going on different media platforms, calling out gatekeepers that are trying to keep his league back. And also, too, in the summer, we've seen Jaylen Brown play in the Big Three, and Ice Cube was very appreciative that he came out to support and played in their games. So if these allegations are proven to be true, then this is a bad look for the NBA. Now, I understand that they have players under contract and they don't want to risk them getting hurt playing in the summer, right? I get all that. But at the same time, they're allowed to play pickup games in the summer at the Drew League or these different Pro-Am leagues, right? And they're even allowed to compete in FIBA games. So since they're allowed to compete in those other venues and those other leagues, then they should be allowed to compete in the Big Three if they so choose to. And also, it's in the summertime and it's played once a week. So it's not going to be nearly as taxing on them physically as it is playing every other day. And also, this is a great tool to help players find their footing. So think about the older players that aren't quite able to play in the NBA anymore, but they're still good and effective. This could be the next phase of their career, right? And also, too, think about the older players that want an opportunity to get back into the league, but they haven't been given that chance. This league could be an opportunity for them to be able to showcase their skills and show that they can still compete at a high level. And an example of this would be Joe Johnson. So he was actually able to get in the NBA and he did a short stint after playing in the Big Three. So this league gives players second chances and it gives them the opportunity to rewrite their story in some cases or continue their story in other cases. So Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, he had a career that ended prematurely. And he has been playing well from what I've seen in the Big Three. You know, I've been watching clips and I see highlights and I see that the guy can still hoop. He's nice. So think about the young fans who never really got a chance to see him play. Or think about the fans who grew up watching him that miss watching him play. There's a lot of potential for this league to breathe new life into the game. And if it does come out that the NBA was actually holding them back, then it's not going to be a good look for them. So the NBA for many years has tried to position itself as an ally to the black community, trying to make an effort to support and amplify Black businesses. And they've especially ramped up their efforts and their rhetoric since 2020. So for them to now allegedly be doing this to the Big Three, right, which is the first professional sports league to be certified as Black owned in the United States. And this was declared by the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce. So it will really come off as hypocritical and distasteful. And if they are found guilty, they will no doubt have to pay a hefty fine. Now, it's not something that's going to certainly hurt them financially, but it will probably be enough just to get the NBA to back off. So not only will they look bad publicly, but it would also look bad to even the players in the NBA as well. And this could potentially pose as a PR disaster for them. Anytime you have the big business picking on the little guy or the small business, those stories don't usually tend to do well, right? So I imagine that the NBA would probably want to make this go away. So if the NBA was to ultimately just back off and let the Big Three operate unimpeded, then we'll be able to see just how economically viable the Big Three is. So they've been in business since 2017, and they're still going strong. So I'm really rooting for their success. Now, I genuinely like the idea and what it is that they do. And I still remember when it was first announced, Ice Cube had a press conference and he was sitting there beside Allen Iverson. And I was excited to see Iverson return to the court, even though it was going to be in a small capacity. As someone who grew up watching him and him being my favorite player, it was exciting. Now, ultimately, it didn't work out with Iverson and the Big Three in the end, but I saw the potential in what the league can do, and I still see that the league has a lot of potential. And I have a lot of respect for Ice Cube, as an artist, as a writer of music and films, as an entrepreneur, as a family man, and even his character. He just strikes me as a man of principle who stands on what he believes in, and he is about truth, and he does good, honest business. And it seems like he instilled those same values in his family. His son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., he's doing his thing in Hollywood, and he's showing that he is a young burgeoning actor. So kudos to him, and kudos to Ice Cube and what he's doing. I don't know him personally, but from the outside looking in, he just genuinely seems like a good guy. And, one day, hopefully, I would love to have him on this platform and be able to speak with him. And, hopefully that could one day become a reality for me. I'd like to speak that into existence. That would be an incredible experience. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel on your way out. You guys can check out my books. They're available at all platforms. And you guys can follow me and the podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Everything will be in the description. Until next time.